If you had one shot or one opportunity to seize everything you ever wanted in one moment, would you capture it or just let it slip? Yo. His palms are sweaty, knees weak, arms are heavy. There's vomit on his sweater already. Mom's spaghetti, he's nervous, but on the surface he looks calm and ready to drop bombs. But he keeps on forgetting what he wrote down. The whole crowd goes so loud, he opens his mouth, but the words won't come out. He's choking how? Everybody's choking now. The clock's run out, time's up, over, loud. Snap back to reality. Oh, there goes gravity. Oh, there goes rabbit. He choke. He's so mad, but he won't give up. Daddies, he know he won't have it. He knows his whole back to these ropes. It don't matter, he's dope. He knows that, but he's broke. He's so stagnant, he knows when he goes back to this mobile home, that's when it's back to the lab again, yo. This old rhapsody better go back to this moment and hope it don't pass him.
Listen, we can talk about the flag, but let's talk about... Wait.
And a very good Football Friday morning to everybody here. Welcome to somebody's got to mute their phone. There we go. We are live. Let's just start that all over again here. Very good morning. Hold on, let me.
Oh, that's me, dude. I'm sorry. That's me.
Oh my God!
Sorry.
Amateur hour to start trending in the AM here, man. What the hell is going on? Let's start over. Welcome to a very good Football Friday morning to everybody here in Trending in the AM. We're here on DSM Media Live, as always, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, YouTube. You know the drill. Like, share, retweet, thumbs up, subscribe. Get your comments in over on the YouTube and Facebook page. Like these examples, it is Football Friday. The Eagles are in the midst of their first groups of OTAs today. So Joe Girardi has not been fired. So, like I said, we weren't going to talk Joe Girardi, the Phillies yesterday. He didn't get fired, so we didn't. We talked basketball. He didn't get fired yet today, so we aren't talking Phillies again today. We are going to talk Eagles today. I am your host, Phil Stifel, at Bearded Knowledge, joined today by Jason Voorhees at Mustang365 and 3651, and down below, Mark with a C, Mark Moscatelli. Gentlemen, we are already off the rails 2 minutes and 20 seconds into this show.
Par for the course, my friend.
Yeah, par for the course. Absolutely. Jason, how you doing this morning?
Better than being off the rails less than 2 months into the season like our baseball team.
Oh
Dude, we are not talking baseball. Stop.
Sorry.
Let's stop. Let's focus.
Didn't they have a big win their last game?
Their last game. They didn't even play yesterday, so that was a positive, you know. So they've gone 2 days without losing. That's a positive. 2 days without losing.
I've already made my latest promise is that I won't watch them until Joe Girardi's fired. So we'll see.
You also made a promise yesterday on the Faithful Fanatics that if the Phillies make the playoffs, you're going to go running naked. You know, so you know that's something that we don't want to see. So now we have
to make the playoffs.
We have a reason to root for them to miss the playoffs.
No, I actually offered $100 to one of the guys, but yeah.
Where will you be running naked at? So I'm not in the area at the time.
Out of the country at that moment.
Down the Schuylkill Trail.
There you go.
All right. So today we're going to talk Eagles. Obviously, Eagles OTAs. We're getting close or happening now. We don't know what's happened yesterday in the OTAs because nobody was there allowed to report on it. Today, reporters will be there for OTAs. So as tonight and this weekend comes out, we'll hear a lot about what they saw today. It's just OTAs, but it's something. It's something to help us look forward to Eagles season. So, like I said, I won't take credit for this. My man, Connor Miles, who does Eagles Maven and writes for SI Now, been on the show multiple times. You know, he did a show. So I'm actually just stealing his topic for the show today because I thought it was a great idea. And I told him, giving him credit, and I'm taking it away from him here. What Eagle not named Jalen Hurts is key for the success this season? And I'm going to add a little to it. What Eagle not named Jalen Hurts needs to take the next step in their development for the continued success of this Eagles team? Because I think we're all so dead set focused this offseason on Jalen Hurts, whether he's the guy or not the guy, whether he's going to be an elite quarterback or not, whether we need a new quarterback next year or not. Everything's always centered around the quarterback. But as we saw last year, we made the playoffs with an average quarterback, a young average quarterback in Jalen Hurts, you know, leading this team. So even if Jalen Hurts is the same, I think that if certain players step up, plus the key additions that this team has made, this team is good enough to compete. I think we're all going to be on the same page on that they'll at least compete. But if one or two of these guys on this team, maybe 3 or 4 of them, take a big step forward, this team could be scary good, even if Jalen Hurts is just an average quarterback. So, Mark, I'm going to start with you today. What is the first player you think of with that opening title of this show that is crucial for this upcoming Eagles season?
I hope I didn't take anybody's choice, but it's Dallas Goedert. I think Dallas Goedert needs to be Zach Ertz 2.0. You see how this league has developed tight ends now, where they're just as important as wide receivers, and maybe even then some. And Jalen is going to need that guy that's going to bail him out every time when he gets in trouble in the pocket. And I think Dallas is that guy. He showed flashes last year, but I don't think he's there yet. Now with Ertz completely out of the picture and him being tight end 1, I think he has a chance to really have a massive breakout year to the point where he can make a Pro Bowl, could be all pro, put up 1,000 yards, maybe score 10 touchdowns. I really think he's that good. And I think he's a player to watch this year. Like I said, for Hurts to be successful, he needs to have a breakout season.
Okay, can I ask you a question? I want to follow your statement up there because I like that choice of Dallas Goedert. I do. I don't know if it was on one of these shows or maybe on a Twitter thread I was talking about it. I mean, it's crazy. First we had Brent Selleck. Then 3 years into Brent Selleck's term, we got Zach Ertz, and it was like we kept having that one guy, that little hangover. We've had 2 quality tight ends for a really long stretch here. Does Dallas Goedert's injury concerns worry you? Because I don't think he's played a full season yet, and we don't have a legit backup tight end. Like last year, Zach Ertz, we had Dallas Goedert. Or when Dallas Goedert went down, we still had Zach Ertz for a little while. Does it bother you or worry you that he hasn't played a full season and that we don't have? I mean, right now listed on the depth chart is Jack Stoll as the number 2 guy. Arcega-Whiteside is trying to transition to that pit position, and I think that if the work pays off, he could be in the lead to be that number 2 tight end. But that's still a big question mark and unknown at this point. I'm concerned about that depth at tight end right now.
They also drafted a guy too with the concussion problems. Injuries are always concern with any player. And that's what I'm real skittish about these OTAs, because in the league, there's always a guy that goes down in these OTAs for the season. And it just, I get really nervous about them. And I pray to God we don't get any reports out there. Somebody tweaked a knee or tore an ACL or did this or did that. It concerns me, but I think he'll overcome it now that he's the top dog. Maybe in the past where he said, well, I need to sit out a game versus, playing. Now he needs to play because he's the top dog. And, he got his money, right? He got a contract extension. Now it's time for him to show what he's worth. Injuries are part of the game, though. I
want to bring that up because you're saying about the OTAs and being worried about injuries. I mean, the Eagles have I think it's the second fewest before camp workouts scheduled this offseason. They only have 6. Your maximum allowed by the NFL is 10, OTA sessions. The Eagles have 6 scheduled this offseason. Yesterday, today, a few more next week, whatnot. None of them are mandatory OTAs. They're only one of 2 teams, them and the Bengals, that have no mandatory mini camps. Now, most of the guys are there. Jalen Hurts is there. A.J. Brown is there. All the rookies are there. And, Nick Sirianni spoke about it last year that he thinks that the Eagles turned a corner on the injury front because last offseason as well, they had a very light workload in the OTA season, help preserve these bodies and stuff like that. Jason, do you agree with that philosophy that Nick Sirianni went with last year, going with this year, where these guys are not being pushed quite as hard in the offseason?
Yeah, I do. I think they've had their track record of injuries in the past. I think it's, good to have that balance and give some guys some time off. I don't think at this point in the year it's ultra important to be playing your star guys, so to speak. To me, it's more about finding out what you have in the young guys and the new guys. That's where I look at these, and even training camp. I want to know what we have. We talk about how we draft well and how our draft went very well. Well, let's see it. Let's put it out there. That's the kind of philosophy that I look for. But going back to the subject on hand, Mark did steal my player. I thank you. I had Dallas Goedert, but that's okay.
I have 3 or 4 names listed,
but that's okay.
He was not one of
But
mine.
he's super important, Jason. Would you agree?
Mark, I agree. And yes. And so if I'm reading this question right, it's what player other than Jalen Hurts is going to step up, kind of?
What needs to step up.
Okay. Well, I have a breakout player that I've actually been eyeing for a while, and I've been saying I thought last year was the year, and it kind of was. He did take a step forward, but not the step forward that I kind of expected. But I'm going to go to the opposite side of the field since Mark took my player in Dallas Goedert. I'm going to go. The guy that I'm looking to break out this year is actually Josh Sweat.
Okay.
I really think that they have something in him, and I know that he had a serious illness at the end of the year. Like, he had a ruptured artery, almost died.
Yeah.
Like, and like people were like complaining, like, I guess when the news came out, maybe they kind of were stepping back from that. But I look at Josh Sweat's progressions, and he's definitely improved each year. But I think what's going to make Josh Sweat have a special year this year, and when I say special, I think he's going to have double-digit sacks. Last year he had 7.5. I think he gets over 10 this year, is the fact that the Eagles bolstered their defense in every asset. Except, the only position that I look at on their defense that I could still say is maybe a weakness is safety. And I think when you improve your linebacker play, the way the Eagles went from having linebackers that really know and really knew, and a linebacking core that isn't scaring anybody, to the fact that they now have Nakobe Dean, who I think was the steal of the draft. And I think the guy that nobody's talking about, Kaiser, is actually a very, very good player. And I think having those two guys and then having the young guys, that they still have, getting the defensive tackle, position, having more depth, and then obviously adding James Bradbury at cornerback to match on the other side to Darius Slay, bringing in the free agents that we did. Why am I drawing a blank? But I'm drawing a blank on the guy that we brought in. And
Hakeem Reddick.
About. Yeah,
Hakeem Reddick.
I think all of those moves together are going to help Josh Sweat, because he won't have to be the guy. I think having a rotation, I think the Eagles are going to have a ton of guys with me. They're not going to have a guy with 20 sacks, but they're going to have a ton of guys with maybe 8 to 10 sacks, because this defense is going to put major pressure on a quarterback. But having that better cornerback play with adding James Bradbury to Slay is going to do numbers for the amount of times where we're saying, why are they not hitting home on those? They're getting pressure, but they're not hitting home. Well, they're going to hit home this year. And I think Josh Sweat is a guy that, like I said, I look at him year 5 now. He's going to take that next step.
I think he has to take that next step, Josh Sweat. Well, where Dallas Goedert, there's the health question mark. The talent is not – there's no question on the Dallas Goedert. He's got the talent. If he can stay healthy and if this offense is clicking, Dallas Goedert, Mark will be right, will take a huge step forward to help this team. Josh Sweat, there's still question marks because he needs to take that next step. But, let's be honest. After he got that big contract before last season, there were some games that Josh Sweat disappeared in. So I like that choice too, because Josh Sweat probably has more to prove than Dallas Goedert does at this point. But I agree with a lot with both of what you said. And on the defensive side, Jason, you talk about, the cornerbacks and the improved linebackers and this rotation, this great rotation. We haven't spent money on safety. And I think the safety group as a whole needs to step up to an extent, or can step, if they do step up, can have look, Howie Roseman has said literally 100 times, Jalen Hurts is our guy. And look, guess what? We're now beginning of June. Jalen Hurts is going to be the guy. He's been saying since day one, Marcus Epps and Anthony Harris are our guys at safety. That's what we still haven't brought in another safety. So Anthony Harris, we know who Anthony Harris is. He's an okay safety. I mean, for a city that's been blessed with Brian Dawkins, Malcolm Jenkins, Andre Waters, amazing safety play for a majority of our lifetimes as Eagles fans. Anthony Harris is well below what we're used to seeing in that leadership role there. But Marcus Epps, and I'm going to throw Kayvon Wallace in there too, because, I mean, there's a fairly decent draft pick invested in him. ESPN's depth chart actually has Kayvon Wallace ahead of Marcus Epps, even though the Eagles have said Marcus Epps is the guy with Anthony Harris right now. I think both of those guys, one of them, it might be the only camp battle going on, really. One of them needs to step up and be a leader, be that back end of the defense leader that this team needs. Marcus Epps had some flashes last year. You know, he broke up a couple big plays, had a big interception in one game. Marcus Epps shows that there's flashes there. Now, is he capable of being a 4 down, 5 down, play 80, 90% of the snaps type safety? I don't know. But that's going to be a big question mark if he steps up his game. All of a sudden, you go with this great pass rush you have, an improved cornerback room. You have somebody like Marcus Epps step up in the back end of that defense. You might be talking a top 5 defense in this league then. But that's a big question mark on Marcus Epps there.
Yeah. I like what you're saying, Phil, but I do think there's something to be said. Like, so when you have bad linebacker play, if you have great safeties, that can hide the linebacker play. Well, it's vice versa. If Absolutely. You have safeties that aren't that great, but you have good linebackers and your linebackers step it up, you can hide the safety. So I think
same thing with a pass rush. If you have a great pass rush, it hides that stuff too.
Yeah, I think it goes hand in hand. And I'm not disagreeing with you. I think safety is the weak link. And I look at it as maybe, you still could add a free agent there. But I think if there's a position that you could say, all right, well, we're going to go with some young guys, it is there. Because you talk about Kayvon Wallace. I mean, everyone's talking about Epps, but Kayvon Wallace was drafted in the 3rd round. Like, he talk about another guy that you need to see what you have. I think a lot of times with the Eagles, unfortunately, we always said, how a lot of times they busted, Howie's balls and said, oh, he sucks at drafting, including me. I was one of them guys. Well, part of the problem is we sit there and say, oh, they can't draft, but in a lot of the times, they don't even know what they have in these guys. It's not like the wide receiver position where they played J-Joe a lot and where they played Rager a lot. And you know that those guys got a ton of chances and they didn't succeed. Well, guys like Kayvon Wallace, they realistically haven't played much still. So it's like, to me, I'm almost like, okay, well, why not just plug the guy in? And if he was drafted in the 3rd round, I mean, I know at Clemson, he was a stud. I remember watching the guy. I mean, I'm not.
We all thought we got mini Brian Dawkins.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I'm not comparing him to Brian Dawkins, but he's that type of player. He hits hard, and he's very.
My problem with Kayvon Wallace is I think he's a man without a position. I don't think he's big and strong enough to play that power safety position, but he's also not fast enough to play cornerback. So he's kind of a guy without a position. You know what I mean? But I still want to see him do well. Mark. Is it really that Epps versus Kayvon Wallace? Is that really the only camp battle, off-season battle that we're seeing position-wise? Because I'm looking up and down the depth chart here. I see the starters on both sides of the ball pretty much already locked in stone. I see one other. I'm going to see if you guys pull it out or not and guess what my one other battle might be. But outside of that, there's not even many second-string battles across the board.
No, I agree. I just want to go back to what you said real quick about the safety position, and you said something about leadership, Phil. Right. In the past couple of years, we lost Malcolm Jenkins and then Rodney McLeod in the safety positions, who were the unquestioned leaders on the defense. Who's the leader on the defense this season?
We don't have that. That's something that's a camp battle right there. Who's going to be the leader?
N'Kobe Dean.
Can you
As
really
a rookie? I think Hakeem Reddick might take the lead there. I don't think somebody like Fletcher Cox is a leader. I don't think he'll have enough stats to make that happen.
But you look at the great team. You look at the great team.
Maybe I'm looking at it differently. I'm looking at N'Kobe Dean as being like the quarterback of the defense. That doesn't necessarily mean the leader, the voice leader, the vocal leader. I agree.
Most teams, the best leaders are their safeties. The vocal leaders, they're the safeties.
Not necessarily. There's a lot of times where it's the linebacker. I mean, Ray Lewis.
Maybe I'm just thinking of Eagles because it's been that way for the Eagles for so long.
Well, yeah, that's the Eagles. But like I said, maybe the Eagles are changing their philosophy. Like,
maybe.
Let's face it, we were spoiled at safety. Spoiled. We had Brian Dawkins and then went to Malcolm Jenkins. Like, not too many teams do that. So it's like almost like we expect that from our safeties now.
Exactly.
And that's okay, but that's not the reality. If you look around the league, there's not too many superstar safeties. There aren't.
That's why they're not valued in the draft so high. That's why people like Kyle Hamilton fell in the draft so far.
I agree, and I wanted Kyle Hamilton, but
we might have a leader on our defense.
I'm not going to complain when we got N'Kobe Dean in the third round. And
right.
Dude, a lot of people are saying that that's N'Kobe Dean's strong suit. He's an amazing leader.
He's super smart, too.
Don't discount that at all. And he came from Alabama. Like, that's why I look at it like, I know he's a rookie, but I think they are so blessed to be in this situation. To have it
very cautiously. I'm trying to be very cautious with the N'Kobe Dean hype in my mind.
I know. You don't want to be let down.
Well, I don't want to be let down, but let's be honest. He did fall to the third round. Every team passed on him twice. Half the teams passed on him a third time. That doesn't happen by accident.
You had Chris Franklin on the show, and you heard what he said. Yeah, I trust what I see.
Yeah. But what I saw was 70, 80. What did we get him at? 83? 82 times he was passed on. And that, to me, gives me that little glimmer of doubt.
You don't think that's going to put a chip on his shoulder?
Oh, absolutely. But what if there's actually a chip in his shoulder right now? You know, or a chip in his rib, or a knee issue.
Listen, there's always a player that, like, drops. I mean, Aaron Rodgers, Randy Moss, Dan Marino. Those guys are all Hall of Fame guys. And I'm not saying Dean is a Hall of Famer, but to pass on a generational talent, which I believe he is, because he was nicked up and there's some question marks about his health, 3 times. But hey, if the other teams wanted to do that, so be it. I have faith in the Philadelphia Eagles franchise that they're making the right decision there.
We got a 50% chance based off of what we've done the last couple of years. Last year, we took Landon Dickerson, lots of injury concerns. I know after the draft, I was pounding the table. Look, the guy's had 4 straight seasons in college where he had a season-ending injury. We got him as a steal in the second round, and he played the whole season, basically. But then you go back a few years prior, Sidney Jones fell to the second round. And we all know Sidney Jones didn't recover from his injury. So there is that little glimmer of thing. I'm just trying to – I don't want to – I'm trying to be cautious with the N'Kobe Dean hype because let's be honest also, the Kazir White, the Hassan Reddick signings also take a little of the pressure off of N'Kobe Dean. N'Kobe Dean may, if he's healthy, start week 1, but he doesn't have to. And he doesn't have to be the number 1 guy if he's not ready to be because you also have TJ Edwards. If we're running a 4-3, you still got Edwards, Hassan Reddick, and Kazir White that could start as linebackers. And you can have a 4-man rotation, so to say. I think they're going to run a lot more 3-4s, so you might see all 4 of them on the field together. But there isn't that excessive amount of pressure on N'Kobe Dean day 1, mainly because of that Kazir White signing, because that gives so much depth to that linebacker crew. And we haven't even mentioned Davian Taylor, who was coming on strong at the beginning of last year before he got hurt. So for once in our life, there's a really strong linebacker room there. You got 5 linebackers that could start. So let's just maybe he might not want to, but maybe let's ease Nakobe Dean along here and not put all the pressure of him being that, voice on the defense just yet.
And I agree with that philosophy, Phil. And just going back to your original question, though, is there any other positions out there? I'm going to throw some curveballs at you because they're not like.
I want to know if you guys.
Do they matter or not?
I have a sneaky play, and I want to see if you guys can pick it out. Which one is about?
Do you want me to just do one or the ones that I think?
Just guess one or two of them, and if not, we'll see if Jason can guess who I think there's a bigger camp battle than people realize going on.
Kick returner, punt returner. Who's returning our kicks? Greg Ward can't be doing that, and it's
Greg Ward.
Are they going to force Rager to do it again this year? He doesn't want to do it. He can't do it. Like that. I think that's a problem, and that hurts field position.
Kick returning. If they carry forward, I said this last year. They ended up only carrying 3 running backs out of camp. But if they carry 4, Jason Huntley's the 4th running back, and then he actually towards the end of the season when they called him up from the practice squad, he had some decent kick returns. He is very capable of returning kicks, but they got to actually put him on the team to do that. Now, punt returning, I have no idea. Let me pull up this roster right here, depth chart. Right now, the depth chart has Ward as the punt returner and Gainwell as the kick returner. I don't know. Maybe Gainwell could return kicks. I don't know. Maybe,
but you're going to want Gainwell's going to have more shots at running back, and you don't want to put him back there for extra hits and kick return or even punt return. I don't think he returned a punt at all last year. I don't know if that's his deal or not.
Is Watkins capable? I mean, he's got the speed to return punts and the jukes and the jives. Maybe Quez Watkins could do it. Jonathan Hightower's speed, straight line speed, if he made the team, he's probably not going to make the team still. I mean, he could probably return kicks. I don't know. That's a question mark. That's not the battle. I was thinking of starters type battles and stuff like that.
I'll throw another curveball at you real quick because I don't think any of you guys have it. How about punter?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean,
I wasn't really impressed with him last year. And again, football's about a game of field position. If you can't return kicks and you can't punt the ball, like you're going to set your opponent up for success, and it's going to be harder for Jalen Hurts to do what he needs to do to be successful. It's a small part, but it's out there. It's something to think about.
All right, so the battle, and let's see if you guys agree with this or not. Another position that all of a sudden we are blessed with lots of depth at is the offensive line. And I think, I don't remember if he's 28 or 29 years old, but Isaac Seumalo, I think, is a very valuable trade piece here coming into camp. And you've got him right now penciled in as your starting right guard. He's coming off of that Liz Frank injury, obviously. So we got to see in OTAs if he's healthy and how he's moving. I mean, he's there. He should. The reports say that he's going to be a full go by camp and stuff like that. Do you consider moving Isaac Seumalo or letting him battle for a position? See if Jack Driscoll could beat him out for the starting position, or Jack Anderson, or Sua Peta. Because I mean, you look at it. You got your 5 starters: Mailata, Dickerson, Kelsey, Seumalo, Johnson. You got Jack Driscoll, Jack Anderson, Cameron Jurgens, Opeta, Dillard. You got Brett Toth. You got Stills. You got a pretty deep offensive line. Do you need Isaac Seumalo? And if he's healthy, and if Jack Driscoll could beat him out as one of those guards, maybe you can use Seumalo to either A, get another draft pick for future, get yourself somebody that can return punts or kicks. Like, you can use him for something. I don't know. It's a thought that I had. Jason's smiling like this. I don't know if that's like a total disagree smile or a I love your idea smile there, but it's like a devious looking smile on Jason's face right now.
I love the idea. I think you're right. I think if there is a position where they're very loaded, it is offensive line. And I get the fact that you don't want to lose that depth, but they have enough that I think that you could, make that kind of a move. Dude, I'll go one further. And I know it's probably out of the question and never going to happen, but if they really wanted to solidify another position or get a draft pick, they could move one of the better guys. I'm not saying they're going to do it.
Are you trying this? You know what? I'm getting this.
You're saying Lane Johnson?
He's saying Lane Johnson without saying Lane Johnson's name.
I'm not saying it because that would be sacrilegious. But my point is I'm just saying I think they have depth enough now where they can make those kind of moves if they had to. I'm not saying they're going to do it. I'm just looking kind of future wise. If you want to kind of get some more picks back.
Hey,
Now,
let's be honest. We're not winning a Super Bowl this year. Lane Johnson's how old? Look, I got bashed last year before last season saying trade Brandon Graham and Miles.
I'm not saying do it. I'm just
I know. But what I'm saying is the thought process is the same thought process I had last year. Is sometimes you got to look 2-3 years into the future when you're making decisions. And yeah, it would piss fans off. I still haven't even had a chance to wear my Lane Johnson jersey that I won last year. You know what I mean? So, it would be a unpopular decision, but big picture,
I guess what I'm saying is having a guy like Lane Johnson at his point in his career is actually a good thing if you look at it like just say, how I'll just go to the quarterback position. You know how everyone's still not sold on Jalen. Well, say we do have a good year, but not a great year. Say we make the playoffs, we're one and done. And people are like, well, Jalen really hasn't improved yet. Say there's some quarterbacks coming out next year. You already have the extra first rounder next year. All of a sudden you have Lane Johnson. You're like, okay, well, we want to get the best quarterback. What I'm saying is having a guy like that at this point could be helpful in the future if you needed to. I'm not saying do it. I'm not saying I want to do that. I'm just saying you have that flexibility when you have depth the way that
that's why I said this last year about some guys, and everyone's like, "Oh, you're an idiot. You don't trade anybody." Blah blah blah. But the thought process and the theory is valid. That's what I want to say. Sorry, Mark.
It's valid, Phil, because you forgot one person in that group, and that's Jeff Stoutland. So whoever you have on the offensive side of the ball on the line, that guy can make an average player above average. And above average, he can do that. So if you wanted to take a risk and trade somebody like a Dillard or Lane Johnson or Sayamalu, you can do it because Jeff is going to get the next guy to play as well, if not better, than the guy that left. And as long as he's on the team, you can do a lot of different things with your players on the offensive line. So it's not out of the question. And just to go back to would I trade Lane Johnson? I probably wouldn't. He's one of those guys that I think are Eagles for life. And after what happened last year and with his mental health, and I just think it would look really bad if they were to trade him the following year. It just I'm big on optics. I'm big on brand image stuff. I don't know if you guys have noticed that or not. You want to try to do the right thing for the team, but you also have to have a little bit of respect for your customers who are your fans as well. So I don't think trading Lane Johnson would be the best thing to do.
Once again, I never said do it or even.
But the theory is there. Look, hey, if you want to take that theory, I would trade Miles Sanders right now.
Okay, and you just stole my thunder with that. So I want to tell you my camp battle. That you asked about camp battles, and Mark said the kick returner. I think you're going to see a push, and I've been a huge Kenny Gainwell fan since Memphis. I really have. I believe he has a lot more potential than people give him credit for. Okay. I think he's actually going to push Miles Sanders this year, and I think this is the year that you might see if Miles Sanders struggles. I think you're going to see a lot of Kenny Gainwell, and I know that's probably an overreaction. But no, I really believe it, and I believe that the Eagles were that high on him, and that's why they drafted him. I'm not saying he's definitely a 3-down back because he is a little smaller, but he has the ability, I'm saying, to push Miles Sanders. And we've seen Miles Sanders struggle injury-wise. Like, Miles Sanders could go down with an injury, too. Let's not forget.
That's why I say you move it. Look, this offense is now you throw in A.J. Brown. They're going to do what they want to do, and they could do last year, and that's try to throw the ball a little bit more. So a Miles Sanders type running back doesn't necessarily fit the style of football play that they're probably going to want to play anyway. Gainwell, Scott, even Huntley a little bit fit that system a little bit better before he gets hurt again, before he gets another case of the fumbles. You try to move Miles Sanders. You just try to find a team that's willing to swap something. Go find yourself a guy that can return punts or kicks or whatever it may be. Go package him with Sayamalu and go find a safety. I don't know.
I mean,
but
he's definitely a guy that a lot of people wanted to trade, like a lot of Eagles fans. Like, it's not something that's out of the question, but I don't think he's going to be traded. But I do believe that Kenny Gainwell will push him. I'm not saying he's going to take over the first spot, but what I am saying is I think you see Kenny Gainwell take that jump. And if Miles struggles, you could see Sirianni start using him a lot more because he has a lot of that ability to catch the pass. Like he's good with those like bubble screens and creating a space. And I agree. I think the Eagles are kind of going to change their philosophy a little bit. They're not going to be as run heavy as they were last year. They were run heavy last year because they had to be. They didn't have anything else. This year, they obviously with AJ Brown that changes that kind of changes the script. And Kenny Gainwell is a kind of back that succeeds in these kind of offenses where it's, run or pass. And I agree. I think he fits it more than Miles Sanders. When Miles Sanders first came out, he was a lot better at catching the ball out of the backfield. I don't know what happened. I don't know if he forgot or if that just kind of went away. But Kenny Gainwell is definitely, like I said, he's on my radar, and I love the guy, and I hope he does get a shot.
I think there's another position that we need people to step up in. And I want to discuss it with you guys because there's a lot of hype around this wide receiver because we've got A.J. Brown now to pair with Devontae Smith. But if you look at all the top contending teams last year, the Chiefs, outside their top guys, they had the Pringles of the world and the Hardmans of the world. Buffalo last year, they had a guy like Gabriel Davis as the third, fourth guy on the team. The Bengals had multiple guys. The Buccaneers, A.J. Brown had whatever happened to him. You had Godwin and Evans get hurt. They had fourth and fifth wide receivers capable of stepping up. So everybody's just assuming it's Quez Watkins in the slot. He's the third guy. Whether he's the guy that has to take a big step forward, or is it any of these other guys? Is it Zach Pascal that's got he's had a number 4 wide receiver career. Can he be any more for us? Jonathan Hightower, does he step up? Does Jalen Reagor finally show some glimmers of hope on this team? With wide receiver not named A.J. Brown or Devontae Smith has to be that guy that takes a step forward in his career, because it doesn't matter if you got A.J. Brown, Dallas Goedert, and Devontae Smith. There's got to be a fourth option. There does. Some will say, well, Jalen Hurts can't actually get to his fourth option when he's reading the field, but that's another whole subject. But somebody else has to step up. So who's that guy that is it just a clean sweep? It's Quez Watkins for everybody? Or is there somebody else that you think can and should step up?
Zach Pascal, obviously they only signed him for a 1-year deal. So it's kind of, to me, like one of those prove-it deals, and it's not a lot of money. Zach Pascal had a lot of talent coming out in the draft, and in Indy, obviously he was behind T.Y. Hilton. They had other options too. He's a guy that I think if he's not the guy, he could do some damage. I don't see how he's not going to be a world beater. He's not going to come out and be like, oh my God, 1,000 yards, Zach Pascal. But I think that it's definitely a battle to look at between him and Quez. I think it's the easy way is just to say Quez is penciled in. And the Eagles obviously think highly of Quez, and so do I. I think he's shown in flashes that he can go to the next level. But if there is somebody that's going to push it, it's Zach Pascal. I don't think Jalen Reagor's listen, I love the guy as a person, but I think he just needs a change. And that's where I'm at with Jalen Reagor. I don't think he's going to take that step. Greg Ward, we already know what Greg Ward is. as Mark said, should he even be the kicker? Should he even be on the team at this point?
I like Greg Ward, but just not
I
anymore.
like him too,
So then maybe Mark's answer is Greg Ward needs to take a step up as the wide receiver.
Yeah, he's a sixth choice on the team. He's an afterthought. He was a guy that filled in when there was nobody there and did admirably well. And that's why he's kind of liked. But like he can't fit in this squad. And I think there is a fight, Phil, for that third wide receiver, and it's between Pascal Rager and Quez Watkins. And who's going to, after the dust settles, who's going to be the guy that's going to be in that spot? Honestly, I think the Eagles would love to see Jalen Rager step up and be that guy. That way they can, validate the fact that they drafted him. I just don't think that that's going to happen. I agree with Jason. I think he needs to go elsewhere to be successful. And you might see him not make the camp and be traded out before the season starts, which would lead it between Watkins and Pascal. And I don't think Pascal signed a deal here to be a fourth receiver because he was already, probably in that range in Indianapolis. So why would you do that? Maybe a comfort level with Nick Sirianni being his coach prior. Maybe Nick sees something in him that he can really kind of tap his talent. I think that might be part of the reason why he's on the team. But I think there is going to be a nice little fight for that third wide receiver. And it is a necessary position that somebody's going to get that look and catch a couple balls out of that position, regardless of what you think of Hurts. I mean, that's just how the NFL works. You got 3 wideouts, 1 tight end, and 1 running back. And those are your guys that you're on the field with most of the game.
So here's the thing with the wide receivers. And I did this when I was only doing night shows. I don't know if it was last season or the season before. I tracked the last 5 years of what the opening roster looked like, how many of each position, how many running backs, how many wide receivers made the opening day roster. Okay? And Howie Roseman's record is 5 years make the opening. Okay? Almost every season, it's been 5. So if that's the case, and that's what he did last year, only 5 made the roster to start last year. You got Brown, Smith, Watkins are for sure making this roster. That means there's 2 others. You got Pascal, Rager, Ward, and Hightower. I mean, you got other guys too, but odds are those other 4 are at least the leading candidates for the final 2 spots. If Jalen Rager's not traded by camp or in the middle of camp, Jalen Rager's making one of those other 5 spots. So that means you got 1 spot for Ward, Pascal, Hightower. What's that kid? I know a lot of people are going to be excited about the sprinter or the Olympic guy, Devin Allen, 27-year-old rookie. He's going to be a fast guy. So the question is,
Pascal's going to make the team.
Is Pascal going to be the 5th guy? Are they going to cut Greg Ward? Are they going to cut Jonathan Hightower? Could probably make it to the practice squad again. That's fine, but Greg Ward won't make it on the practice squad. That's kind of disrespectful. I think Pascal, his contract, and I disagree with you, Mark, does not mean he's a 3rd or the 4th guy. I mean, I'm not positive on this, but I'm almost positive he signed for less than $2 million guaranteed. That's easy to just when you sign a guy for under $2 million, that's easy to just cut and just wash away. It's not like killing your cap doing that.
Well, think about
Pascal's a guy.
Think about how everything went down. So there were reports. If we believe all the reports, the Eagles wanted Ridley. Obviously, the whole thing went down with Ridley.
Yeah,
they obviously passed. They signed Pascal. At that point, I don't think they knew in their minds, oh, we're getting A.J. Brown. So they knew that they had to fix the position, but they didn't necessarily want to spend a boatload of money. They wanted to keep their options open, knowing that the draft was coming up and knowing that guys were becoming available. So I think that's why they signed Pascal per se, not necessarily. And that kind of would make sense of what you're saying, Phil, about would they be willing to cut him? Yes, but I don't think I got to be honest with you. I think in camp he will show out and beat out Greg Ward because I think he's better than Greg Ward. I'm not saying Zach.
If Jalen Rager gets traded, your 4th and 5th wide receiver are Ward and Pascal. But I think if it comes down to one roster spot between Pascal and Ward, Howie Roseman and this organization's comfortability with Greg Ward makes Greg Ward that fifth guy over Pascal.
But I think Nick Sirianni,
we don't like him as a punt returner, but I mean, he doesn't fumble the ball. At least he catches it, when it's there. So I don't know.
I think, though, if you look at some of the moves that have been made and some of the things that have been said, I think Nick Sirianni is slowly getting more and more power. I'm not saying he's ever going to be he's never going to be above Howie Roseman, but I think Howie's starting to see what he has with Sirianni, and he's starting to give him little divots of like, okay, you can do this.
Sirianni
I think Sirianni's power in that point will be, I want to keep Pascal because he's comfortable with him. He's played with him. That's why he's here. So while I agree with your philosophy, Phil, I think at the end of the day, I think if it's between, I got to be honest. I think Reagor. I think at this point, now that Howie got AJ Brown, I think he will be willing to cut bait with Reagor if need be. I do. I know what you're saying. Oh, the track record, and they're not going to get rid of Reagor. I don't believe it. I think Reagor will be off this team one way or the other, whether it's trade or gone, because I just don't think he's sitting well on the team as far as like he just doesn't mix with what they're trying to do.
It's just I don't think I've ever seen Howie cut a draft pick that was taken in the first or second round.
He has.
He got a third season to try.
I don't think he'll cut him. I'll think he'll trade him for a bag of balls if he has to, just to save face that he didn't cut him. So I don't think that's going to be an issue.
Mark, I mean, it's been obvious. Some teams have been interested in him. They just haven't pulled a trigger on the trade.
And they will, though. They will once training camp starts and people go down and players start to move around. People get a little more desperate and the deal will be made. So,
yeah, that's true.
It's June 3rd now, right?
What's that?
June 1st passed, so we're going to start seeing a lot of more movement again. Remember.
Absolutely. All right, so we've mentioned these coaches a bunch of times. So I had on my list as Marcus Epps as the guy that had that could make a big impact if he takes a step forward. I want to say that we keep talking about Nick Sirianni and Jalen Hurts and all these players. I think there's a lot of pressure on Jonathan Gannon to take a step forward this year. There's no excuses of lack of talent. I mean, there's the safety issue, but bringing in Hassan Reddick, Nakobe Dean, Kazir White, Jordan Davis, James Bradbury
remolded the whole defense.
The whole entire defense is completely different. And he just got through a summer where he was the 17th ranked defense, but still got a half a dozen head coaching job interviews.
Which is I don't get.
No, it goes to show that the league understands his theories, but that he was just given an improper team to execute his theories.
So here's
there's pressure there. No, so
here's the notes that I have for today's show and Jonathan Gannon's on there. Gannon has the pieces. Does he put the puzzle together, or is he not mechanically inclined to do so? So to kind of get back to what you're saying, like we gave him here's all the puzzle pieces, my friend. Put the puzzle together. Is he able to do that? I don't know. If he is able to do that, he's going to get a head coaching job somewhere, and then he won't be our problem anymore. Because I don't believe in him. I saw enough last year where he couldn't get his defense to stop drives at the most critical time. And I don't want to hear about you didn't have the players, you didn't have this, you didn't have that. Your job as a defensive coordinator to figure out a way to make that happen. How many long, time-consuming touchdown drives did they have?
Mark, I'll tell you something, Mark. I was at the San Diego Chargers game. The Los Angeles Chargers game against the Eagles at the Link. And what did they have the ball? The Chargers got the ball with 7 minutes left. All we had to do was stop them once, get the ball back. We were only down a field goal. They literally marched down the field and ran 6.5 minutes off the clock. Dude, I was sitting there with my man Jeff Warner. Shout out to him, my man. I still want him to be part of the morning show. Haven't convinced him yet. But anyway, Jeff and I sitting there looking at each other. Dude, just make one stop. And we just keep watching the clock tick off. Dude, that was a 1:00 game. We were out of the stadium out of the stadium before 4:00 because that drive ran the clock off and it was never stopped. And just that fourth quarter was 3 minutes long. It felt like
There was more than a few of those types of games
exactly
this year. That's the one that's sticking out too.
When you see it on TV, it's one thing. When you see it in person, and you're sitting there, you're like, dude, looking at your watch, looking up at the scoreboard, you're like, dude, one stop, come on. It's eye opening.
He has the pieces now, and let's see what he does. I think it's I think it's a win-win. I don't like him. If he succeeds, I mean, obviously the Eagles have done a great job, and they'll probably go to the playoffs, maybe even win a game. He'll get promoted elsewhere. If he doesn't succeed, I don't see him staying for a third year. Do you?
Depends on what level of not succeeding he does. I think this defense has the talent. With the right coaching and barring any injuries, this defense on paper has the talent to be a top 5 defense in this league. Now it's up to Jonathan Gannon to get the guys ready and execute and put them in the right places to do that. And if this is on paper a top 5 defense potentially, and they finish somewhere in the top 10, he'll still be here and he probably won't get a head coaching job. If he's top 5, he'll get a head coaching job. Now, if he finishes with the 17th ranked defense again, yeah, he might be given the axe. But if they finish somewhere in that 9, 10, 11th ranked defense, he'll be back next year for sure.
I think the key to his success this year, I think signing Bradbury was kind of what is going to put them over the top as far as being able to get done what he wants as far as his philosophy. I think we always complain. I know I do. I all year I complained about the Eagles not being able to sack the quarterback. And I get it that sacks are kind of an overrated stat. Like it's kind of like ERA. It's not like if a guy has a 4 ERA, does it necessarily mean they're terrible? No. If a guy doesn't have 10 sacks, does it mean he's bad? Like I know that we give Derek Barnett a lot of heat. And it realistically is a lot more about putting the pressures and hurries and things like that and being in the space. Having 2 cornerbacks that are, well, in my opinion, Darius Slay and James Bradbury are 2 different style cornerbacks, but yet, they're our back level now. It's set. We have the guy that can basically stop anything, and then we also have a playmaker in Slay. I think having that ability in the backfield does wonders for your defensive line. Like a defensive line that has the talent but is struggling to get home, you all of a sudden now have guys in the back that are going to be, help that defense get home to the quarterback. It kind of goes hand in hand. Having a good defensive line can help average cornerbacks. Having great cornerbacks can help an average defensive line. Well, this isn't an average defensive line. On paper, this defensive line could be realistically great. Like, if you look at it, I mean, obviously Fletcher Cox is older, but you got a bunch of guys that are fast. I think if you look at this Eagles defense compared to the year that they won the Super Bowl, this team is a lot more quick. It seems like that's Gannon's philosophy. Have a lot of speed. I don't know if you guys agree with that, but it just seems to me like their defensive line has a lot of guys that are really fast. They don't have a lot of big guys on the beside. Well, they do now. Jordan Davis, but I'm talking about your ends.
I'm curious to see what Jordan Davis looks like from the beat reporters today, because I mean Jordan Davis. I mean, he's what, 45 pounds. He's a truck. He's a semi. He's a
max truck.
He's massive. But they really want him down in that 330 range. So I'm curious to see if he's slimmed down at all. Mark, you can continue on this conversation with Jason now.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with him with the defense being fast and quick. I think that's where a lot of defenses are going. Right? I mean, it just you really don't see like huge lines that clog up there because nobody runs the ball anymore. So you don't really need that. So you need guys that are quick. A guy like Nakobe Dean. Let's go back to him. He is a linebacker, but he's probably going to be dropped into coverage a lot because he's so damn fast, and he'll cover the back or the tight end out of the maybe even a wide receiver, the slot receiver on a short pattern. So I believe the defenses are equipped today to be fast defenses to counteract all these damn wide receivers that are running all over the field. I mean, it's just the way NFL football has evolved from the 80s, which was, run the ball 3 times and then throw a pass to Jerry Rice for a touchdown. I mean, stuff like that. Now it's first, second, third down. You're throwing all the time. So you need guys that are quick and smaller to keep up with where these balls are going.
The league has a bunch of Andy Reeds.
I mean, seriously, though, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, defensive tackles were 300, 320, 330 pounds. Now you see guys coming out in the draft, they're defensive tackles, and they're 285, 290. Because not only is it the quicker defense and all this passing, but you need guys. I mean, a 330 pound. What's the one knock on Jordan Davis? He can't play 3 downs because of his size. He can't handle it. So these smaller, faster guys are also more capable of being out there for 3, 4, 5 plays in a row. You got all these no huddle offenses, these quick tempo things. You just can't have those thick, heavy guys like me.
I love the fact that this team has infused a lot of veteran with a lot of youth. Because you don't forget, too, you have Milton Williams. Milton Williams was drafted last year at pretty high himself, and he's a big guy, too. So they have good young talent. That's why Fletcher Cox is expendable. To the point where I know a lot of people thought we were getting rid of him this year, but he's expendable because you've drafted well now. And I know a lot of people bash them for drafting Jordan Davis. But at the end of the day, when you have that position solidified, defensive tackle, it's just like anything else. It's just like why they value the offensive line. You preach this all the time on your shows, Phil, that it's not what we want to do all the time. It's what Howie does. And Howie's MO is always the trenches. It's the offensive line, defensive line. This defensive line.
You said Milton Williams. I'm on ESPN. Now, ESPN's depth chart sucks. I mean, there's some mistakes on it for sure. But it's got Milton Williams as a third stringer on this team. And Milton Williams played key important snaps last year. Because that's how deep the defensive line now is. That Milton Williams, your third-round pick from last year, is now a third stringer on this defensive line.
And don't forget Javon Hargrave. When the Eagles signed Javon Hargrave, he was a player that was already trending up, going into his prime. He hit, and everyone was excited. And now I see a lot of people saying Javon Hargrave sucks. Dude, Javon Hargrave's got a lot of talent too. This line is loaded, with talent. It's just a matter of like Mark said, will the guy running the show, will the puppet master be able to put the pieces in place to do what they got to do? That's what it's all about now. Is Gannon going to be smart enough to get the most out of all these guys? Because he has the guys. Their defensive line is loaded. I don't think a team in the NFL has as much talent on the defensive line overall. If you look defensive end, defensive tackle, then the Eagles. You'd be hard-pressed to find it, at least.
They have a lot of guys that could rotate in and out and keep fresh. Say what you want about Graham being older and injured. Say what you want about Barnett. You got Josh Sweat. You got Fletcher Cox, Milton Williams, Javon Hargrave. You got players that, honestly, if they went elsewhere, they'd probably be starters. And you're going to constantly cycle those guys out to keep them fresh. They should be putting on a pretty decent pass rush, but again, I know we talked about this a little bit earlier about other stats that are out there, pressures and hits being just as important as sacks. I do want to see sacks. I want to see some guys break some double-digit sacks this year. We really haven't had that on a consistent basis for a long time now. And I want to see more of that. And I agree
with you. I want to. I mean, I want, we were joking about the dream team earlier this year on this show, or earlier this week on this show, and that was the year I mean, it was a big disappointment, the Dream Team, obviously, but Jason Babin had 18 and a half or 18 sacks, and Trent Cole had 11 and a half sacks. You had multiple guys. We need that. We need to see Hassan Reddick get 12 or 14 sacks this year. We need to see, somebody else, Josh Sweat, get 10. That would be if you get 25 sacks between Josh Sweat and Hassan Reddick, that's a step in the right direction, obviously, for this defense. That might be enough to beat last year's entire team worth of sacks. I don't even know. But yeah, I mean, that would be extremely, extremely clutch right there to be able to have those guys do that right there.
Oh, absolutely. That's why I said I think Josh Sweat this year. I think he takes that step.
I'm not sold on Josh Sweat. I mean, I hope I'm wrong, but
it's fine.
But anyway, back to Mark's point there about the rotation and all. I mean, Jason, we've done this a million times. I've talked about Fletcher Cox's best seasons were when he was running 56% of the snaps. If you can get Josh Sweat, Javon Hargrave, Fletcher Cox, all these guys around that 55 to 60%, that's the max amount of snaps. I don't need my defensive lineman playing 80 to 90% of the snaps. When you get Fletcher Cox and those veterans at that 55% mark of the time they're on the field, that's when they're most effective. And that will be key to the success of that line. Keeping that 55%. That's the number I would be writing down on my chart when I'm tracking my players if I'm a coach. All right, well, Fletcher Cox is out of 60%. All right, let's pull him out for a drive. Let's keep him fresh. Jordan Davis, same thing. All these guys, you keep them in that 55%, and you got enough guys where you could do that for everybody. So that'll be key right there. You guys got any closing thoughts before we wrap the show up here today?
I'm excited for Eagles football. I mean, it's like we joke about it, but we talk about how it's a cycle in this town with the teams. Like we get excited and we get let down. I mean, I was super pumped for the Flyers, and after like a week, I was let down. Yeah, I was super pumped for the Sixers, and then obviously they broke our hearts. I was super pumped for the Phillies, and we all know where they're at. So now I'm super pumped for the Eagles, and let's see where that goes. I'm hoping that it's not a letdown.
I say tis the season for Eagles chants at Phillies games, and you'll probably hear them louder and louder as their Philly season goes on. I have this team. I didn't get on any of the shows to go over the schedule when the schedule came out, but I have his team at 11-6 with a playoff win. I think they lose their opening game against Detroit. I think they split in the division, and I think they finish very, very strong. I see them going and winning a playoff game and having it being a fairly successful season.
Okay, all right. I won't
hold. That's
all
I got.
We don't make official predictions.
Are you holding me to the 92 win Phillies prediction that I had earlier this season?
Yes. I'm holding you to that, but I'm not holding you to 11 wins just yet. We'll come back to that in September, late August, September. All right, guys, we're gonna wrap the show up there. Trending in the AM, right here on DSM Media. We'll be back Monday morning, Overreaction Monday, 8:30, as we are every single day of the week. Everybody have a great weekend. For my host, Jason Voorhees at Mustang3651, Mark Moscatelli, Mark with a C. I am Phil Stiefel at Bearded Knowledge. Everybody have a great weekend. Be well. Enjoy. It's going to be nice weather, not overly hot, sunny. Should be a blast. Everybody have a great one. Enjoy it. Yo, it's back to go Birds, guys.
Fly, Eagles, fly.
Fly, Eagles, fly.